Today we're going to be looking at what is numeracy, because there's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions around that actual term. Looking at the importance of numeracy within the New South Wales K-10 syllabus, learning about some key features of the interactive numeracy continuum, and engaging in some professional dialogue around the numeracy continuum. So just very briefly, if you want to turn to the person next to you, or in a small group if that's more comfortable for you, you just want to discuss what you think numeracy is, and then we'll do that nice reveal and check if we do in fact have a really firm idea of what that is.
What do you think numeracy is?
So on your little sheet, hopefully you'll have some things that you already know about numeracy and about the numeracy continuum. If you want to put some things down there, some things that you might want to know by the end of the session, and then I'm hopeful that by the end of it you really may have already learned something already about what numeracy is, and then about something that you'll have learned at the end, and hopefully that third column will be packed with lots of information by the time we finish today. So the numeracy continuum has been around for a while now, and it is underpinned by research. So it's not something that has been plucked out of the air or something that is being created on a whim. It's something that has had a great deal of time put into it. For those people who have been around for a while, and I know we have a lot of young staff, some of us may have participated in Count Me In too. I know I did in the early 2000s-ish mark. So it has come around from Count Me In 2. Our school did Accelerated Literacy with the National Partnerships. A lot of other schools did Town. So it's based on pedagogy that has been around for quite some time, and that's what is underpinning it. So the continuum, as we know, looks like that, and lots of people do have them in their classrooms or have had them in their classroom at some point. The big difference with the numeracy continuum is it's not about looking at a specific aspect and working across. With numeracy, obviously you know from teaching maths that obviously you might be good at addition and that overlaps into another area, so that helps you being good with areas like measurement. So it's not, you have to be good in one thing to be able to do the next thing. They all interrelate and relate to each other. So you don't just read one item as being a discrete set of skills. They do overlap with each other as you go down, even though there are 7 substrands. Part of the numeracy continuum in their class.
I'm not at the moment, but I have previously.
In what way?
I would use it to plot my students, to move them along through our grouping activities and to extend and cater for the individual needs. Like, so I'd have children that were performing quite high. I would have some activities that would link to their needs and so on, so forth down the list. I'd actually keep it behind my desk where they couldn't see, and I had their names on there, and I'd be able to rub it out and move them up as I noticed them going through.
So groupies is quite an obvious way that you can, use the continuum to help target particular sets of kids. Does anyone feel comfortable that they know any of the terms?
Is it supertising when you get the dots like 4 and 5?
Yeah, you see it as a part in a whole.
It's knowing it without counting it.
Yeah,
Like
the dice.
Yeah. It's an instant recognition. So dice is the typical one. So you see the 5, the 4 dots in the dot in the middle, and you go, that's 5. We've seen it lots and lots of times. That's a nice one. So that's what subsidising in. Something like transivity is, if I said I have, it's more of a, if mangoes are sweeter than lemons and strawberries are sweeter than mangoes, therefore I can deduce that lemons are more sour than strawberries.
Right.
So using that concept, your less than, your more than concept.
So it's like a reasoning?
Is. Well, it's being able to compare.
Okay.
So compare. And again, I'm sure, well,
We do it.
we are doing it, but perhaps we don't know what the term is. So that's that partitioning. And something that I've really found by delving into the numeracy continuum a lot more is that it's really strong on mental computation and not at all around doing a lot of algorithms. Really, it's not even suggesting the algorithm until late stage to a formal algorithm. It's all about doing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of mental computation. So using all of these skills, these terms here, and so that they have a really firm understanding of those. Because otherwise, when you look at the arithmetic kind of progression, there's the emergent, perceptual, etc. They're really only sitting in a count-on phase if they can do an algorithm. They don't have any other skill than that. So I know that, there's no, I'm really happy with our maths program, but there's always room for improvement in any program. I think it's great that we're all consistent and we've got, we're following a sequence of steps that I think is important, so we're all on the same path. Now it's more about looking at, well, this is what is better maths practice or best practice, so we can start then moving into doing more,
So previously we had a bit more of a look around the terms that we need to be really careful of and have a good understanding of when we're using the numeracy continuum, because previously we've been involved with Part Year 2 or Town, then we had a pretty good understanding of those terms. But as we've found out with new university students, etc., coming through, they aren't familiar with those terms. So it is really important to have a good grasp of them, and hopefully from what we did previously, we'll have a better understanding of that. So today I really just wanted to look at each of the aspects, and I wanted to show you very briefly how easy it is to find any information on the numeracy continuum. You don't need to be in the department site. All you have to do is Google numeracy continuum. This page will come up. What is really good about the numeracy one is that they actually have lots of little videos in each of the aspects. So you see teachers working with children, so you get a really good understanding of what it means in that aspect that children should or shouldn't be doing. Okay, so I think that's really important. There's no guesswork involved there. You can actually watch. A lot of these videos I actually noticed go back to Count Year 2 days when we're doing centre testing as well. But it's really useful, and I don't think that's done as well in the literacy continuum, and this one you can actually really see that. And that actually helps with tweaking assessment tasks or when creating our slides, knowing exactly what it is that they should be able to do as a continuum. So the first aspect is counting sequences and neural identification. So typically, where do you think most of this learning is going to start? Yeah, in early stage 1. And that's where the basic building foundation is going to be, and that's going to progress as time goes on. You would expect that a lot of children are going to be well and truly au fait, and we hope they will be, with this one here by the time they're going to make their way into the primary framework and exploring early arithmetical strategies, which I've copied because I think that will be useful for you to just go away with. It's got each of the different little sections of that aspect, so you can really see where kids are. And I'm thinking that in a couple of weeks that we come back together with our class data and see where they are in here, because this also will show you where it links up to videos as well, so you can then actually see in each little substrand what kids should be doing with their counting skills.
Teaching time where I often have to be called out, that sort of thing. So the Kids Motor framework in part 2 is all about the social and emotional learning that we can develop in the children, which we are all really aware here at Mayfield East. A lot of the kids don't have. They don't have that resilience. They don't have that persistence. They don't have those cooperative skills. So component 2 after the first component, which was all about building the community, which we do quite well here. We have quite a lot of dialogue between the community and quite a lot of events. But the second part's all about us, social and emotional learning. And I think this is where we're falling down a little bit at the moment. It's all about a whole school approach. At the moment, we've got that surface level program of the social skills, which we talk about in the morning assembly. And if you actually look at the research into social and emotional learning, if you develop it through the whole school and develop those competencies effectively through explicit teaching, which at the moment, all discussion on assembly is not really doing a huge amount of explicit teaching. I'm thinking if we can start to embed those skills into the classroom, practice them each day, transfer that knowledge into the students and hopefully onto the playground, and have a dialogue with family at home, we should be able to sort of deepen our programs. And if you actually look at the statistics, you can actually develop a 15%, an 11% increase in educational outcomes just simply by developing those social and emotional learning.
So this is a little bit of a timeline that you can see of putting in all of those little reforms. So you can see here starting in 215, it's a short cycle for the PDF, which we know that we don't have to have 5 goals, we can have a few goals. It's been a shortened period, we don't have the full year to get that completed this year. We've also got coming into play school classifications being based on the RAM. Our RAM is a little bit different, and for those people that don't know, that's the money that we actually get to fund our school. Because we were previously a 229 school, which is now called a business as usual school, we actually get money in our RAM that pays for every teaching person here. Other schools that are not a former 229 school only get a RAM at the moment that is showing money coming in for things like Indigenous funding, equity, literacy and literacy programs, but ours takes it all in. And that's the part that other schools go down the track, and they do look slightly different. Principals are going to now get paid according to that RAM, so they believe that's a bit of a, I guess, a fairer system, because depending on the complexity of the clientele that you have in your school, depends on what RAM you get. So the higher the RAM the school gets, the higher the pay scale for a principal is how it starts working. And then just, everyone being informed about this standards-based pay for teachers. And you can see here how things are changing in 2016. Obviously, we get to do the full PDP from the very beginning. So the thing that's really pertinent to you guys at the moment is the standards-based remuneration, so standard-based pay. So we are starting to go through a transition starting next year. And this is the real nuts and bolts for you guys. So if you're a graduate teacher, this is your pay. I don't know how that compares to what you're getting now. Is it
A little bit more.
More, is it too much?
you get that sign off from submitting your evidence, you instantly jump to 77,200. You stay here for 2 years, and then every year thereafter it goes up to become proficient at point 1, then the next year proficient at point 2, and proficient at point 3. That's really where that PD personalised development plan is kicking in. So if that is looking good, your evidence there and you're getting signed off, then you keep moving up. Once you hit 2.3, that's the top, so that's your final salary. Looking at this, to me, I know when I started it was probably 12 years before I reached the top of the scale, so this is it's a quicker process. I know I started at about 33,000, so really good money, I think, coming out as a uni compared to other first year out people at other fields. So I guess that's why they take us to it, getting paid for it. And then of course, for those people that are at this point, they don't aspire to go into a leadership role, but they are really good classroom practitioners. They can then look at doing this highly accomplished role, which was spoken about before, and then that will give you a pay of 101,000, which is pretty much on par with an AP. But
They have to maintain that level.
yes, you have to maintain.
And that's annually?
Yes, because you've got your sign off with the PDP.
Now that we are at Kids Matter School and we've decided that we need to develop our social skills streaming lessons for the development of social and emotional learning, we need to look at whether our scope and sequence that we have for social skills streaming fits into the 5 competencies, which is self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and relationship skills. And what we're aiming to do today is actually to split up our scope and sequence into those 5 categories to pretty much ensure that it covers the 5 competencies required in Kids Matter. And I've had a look at it and I'm pretty sure it does. So that's going to be our task today at our groups. I'm going to divide you up into the 5 groups and we're going to try and slot the topics into the 5 competencies of Kids Matter.